Hello everyone, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today we're jumping into day 3 of By the Well for God's Handcrafted Devotional. Now in day 3, we talk about how we are created in God's image, and Genesis 1:26 says, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness." And this is so cool because it coincides so well with the Westminster Catechism that I'm going through, and tomorrow is Theology Thursday, so make sure you check up on that video because it's so cool, the similarities between these two devotionals and studies. So Lori is talking about in day 3 how God created us in his image, but not the outward image that we would think of when we look in the mirror, but rather the inward appearance, and he has created us like him in that way. We have a spirit or soul that will continue on after this life. So as you can see here, I've used a makeup brush to blend out some old paper distress oxide color, and then I did spritz a little bit of water on the background and dried it just a smidge and then picked it up with some paper towel. And now I am going in with some bundled sage on an acrylic block just because I needed a place to kind of mix the texture paste and color together. I definitely wanted to bring some more green tones into this page. And so I love coloring texture paste, and it's the perfect way to add just a little bit more color into your page. I do have to say I grabbed my acrylic block because it was the first thing I could grab on my desk, but if you choose to mix colors and texture paste on acrylic blocks, make sure you rinse that off really quick as soon as you're done because the texture paste will stay on it. So I did that before I did anything else with this page. I knew I wanted to add one of these buttons at the end of my page, but I did want to add some glossy accents to it to make it look like a real button. So I knew I had to get this done quickly so it had time to dry as I was working throughout the rest of the page. So I just stuck that sticker down on some white paper, cut it out, and added a layer of glossy accents down on top of it. And then I am just going to move it over just a smidge so it doesn't get stuck to the paper where I put that glossy accents down. I knew I wanted to use this journaling card that was included in the ephemera pack, and I had also created this embroidery hoop with my canvas bag that the kit comes in, and also some wood paper for the hoop part, and then I just embroidered a couple X's in it. I really liked the way it turned out, but unfortunately it doesn't end up in the final stages of this page, but I did keep it for future use. If you ever want to do some hand stitching on some paper, these journaling cards are the perfect place to do that because these little stitches are already on the paper and they're in the same place, front side and back side, so it makes it super easy to just turn them back and forth and thread them the correct way. Now this does take a bit of time, so I kind of fast forward this for you because there's no reason for you to sit here and watch for 20 minutes. Now I do have to say, if you use a cutting mat and something to pierce the holes, it'll make this so much faster. That's what I ended up doing at the end right here. It made it just so much faster to thread that embroidery floss through the holes, and this is how it turned out. Now this is all kind of melding into similar colors with the background, and so I'm going to distress the edges. This is a paper distresser from Tim Holtz and Tonic. I had a lot of you ask that last time. I'm so happy to have gotten this. I was using my scissors a lot, and maybe my scissors work a little bit easier for me to handle, but I think I'll get the hang of this and it'll save my scissors as well. So anyways, by distressing the edges and adding a little bit of color on the edges, I always have brown on this makeup brush. It'll just help kind of set this apart. I'm also going to start adding a lot of layers. And this is the fabric that I got in my coordinating fabric duo. So I'm using that to layer behind. I'm going to add some ripped edges to it and just glue that on top. Now with this being a sewing, knitting, and kind of crafting style of kit, I'm definitely into all the fabrics. I mean, I always am, but the more fabrics and textures and strings I can get hanging off of pages, the better for me. I also really loved this background paper that came in the paper pack. It kind of reminded me of some vintage wallpaper, and so I'm using that to back another layer down on this cluster. Now, since I've grunged up everything else on this page, I'm not going to leave this stark white either. And so I'm going to take my makeup brush and go around the edges, especially the torn edges. It'll kind of give that a more grungy, old, antique look. Here is where I start to notice that that embroidery hoop is just not going to fit on this page. It's making it too busy, and so I decide to leave it for another page. But I do take out this flashcard. I'm not going to use the whole thing because, again, it looked too big compared to this cluster, but I did want to make sure that I had the verse on this page, and so I cut out the verse and I am distressing the edges, and then I will just glue that down to the corner. Now I definitely want to add more layers to this cluster because it's looking a little too rectangular for me right now. So I grabbed these labels and I'm going to add one to the bottom left-hand corner of this cluster. It'll kind of draw your eye downwards, and I'm going to add my date stamp to this label. Now, if you've never seen this before, I always do this. These are on stickers, so you could just stick it down to your page, but I prefer to stick them down on paper first. That way I know I can move it around and figure out exactly where I want to place it. I've also found if you have a really heavy mixed media background, then sometimes you can see through the stickers like colors or textures, and so this way I never have to worry about that. Now, real quick, if you're looking for a pair of scissors, definitely check out these Tim Holtz 9.5-inch serrated scissors. They sharpen themselves as you cut and can almost cut through anything, so they're definitely worth picking up if you're looking for a pair. I definitely like how this cluster is coming out, but now I want to add another floral just to match the florals on the journaling card. And so I take one out of the ephemera pack and cut out the white space a little bit, and then just distress the edges like everything else. And then I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape on the back side. I don't want it to get lost in the cluster. I want this to kind of stick out, so I'm going to make sure to add some foam tape, but before that, I'm going to glue everything together. Now, this is the way I glue my clusters together, at least the preferred way. I always like to put my clusters together off of the page. That way I can get the placement a little bit easier for myself. Now, my button that I put Glossy Accents on has dried pretty well. It's definitely not fully dry yet, so I'm just touching the edges, but I know that I want to put it in the upper right-hand corner, so I'll just place that there diagonally. And then I do want to add just a little bit of hymnal paper on the bottom left-hand corner where that label is, and I'm going to add just the tiniest amount. It's sticking out a little bit too much here, so I decided I'm going to tear it off the top and just place it enough where you can just see the music notes. Now, this hymnal paper is from an older hymn book, so it doesn't take too much distressing, and then I'll just glue that down to the lower left-hand corner where the music notes are peeking out. I also had made a pocket between that background paper and the fabric behind the journaling card, and so I took this verse card that came with the kit, and I'm going to make a little pull tab with this measuring tape ribbon. I also like that this adds a little bit more black to that side of the page, since I have that cluster down in the lower left-hand corner with the only black, and so this kind of brings that over to the other side. I did want to add another button to this page because that one at the top looks kind of lonely. It is the only shiny thing on the page, and so I decided I would put it on this label. It's this cute little heart button, and I added some glossy accents, and then I will start gluing this all down. Now, I knew I wanted to add a bow clip to this page, but I was being a little indecisive about which one. There was a couple that came with the kit that would have worked perfectly, but I decided to go with my coordinating fabric and create my own. Now, the coordinating fabric is only a 10 by 12, so I do have to make smaller bows. Usually I make them quite large, but these cute little bows work perfectly. So I add that to the top of my page, and then I grab my Nuvo drops because I know I haven't used those in a while. I have this fun and greenish blue iridescent one. I believe it's called Dragon Scales, I think. I'll link it down below. But it is this cool iridescent color, and it matches perfectly with this kit. So after I add those, this page is done. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. It means so much to me. You can find everything that I use linked down below. And if you haven't followed me over on Instagram before, my name over there is Wonderfully Made Handcrafting. I hope you have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.